Have you ever wondered how a simple creative passion could spark an entire movement or thriving business? Today's guest took a craft as delicate as paper flowers and turned it into such a powerful personal brand. She reaches thousands through her artistry, education, and her community. My name is Lauren V. Davis, and this is the Real Personal Branding Podcast. And in this episode, I'm thrilled to introduce you to my friend, Quynh Nguyen. Quynh Nguyen is the paper artist behind Pink and Posey, where she creates fine art installations that bring the beauty of nature to life through paper. Her journey with paper flowers led her to establish the Posey Box, an educational platform dedicated to teaching this delicate craft, and to co-found the Paper Talk podcast. With nearly a decade of experience, Quynh brings a unique blend of artistry and business expertise to her speaking engagements and workshops. She is also the brand new author of The New Art of Paper Flowers, which is a comprehensive guide set to inspire paper artists at all levels. You can learn more about her at pinkandposey.com. Quynh's story is nothing short of inspiring. She transitioned from this corporate life to creative entrepreneurship. She built a niche brand from the ground up. She co-founded this podcast, Paper Talk Podcast, to uplift and connect the paper flower community. And Quynh doesn't just make beautiful things, but she builds long-lasting connections. It's a perfect example of why she's on this podcast today, and she teaches others how to do the same. In this conversation, we're going to explore her background, how she turned paper flower making into a full-fledged business, and her insights on building a brand within a creative niche. If you've ever dreamed of turning your passion, your hobby is maybe not the right word, but like your passion, your creative passion into something bigger, this episode is for you. Welcome to the Real Personal Branding Podcast, Quynh. I'm so happy that you're here.
Thank you so much for having me, Lauren. I'm so excited to be here.
So you and I have known each other for a while now, and I love watching you on social media. You are just like so much fun to watch, and your flowers, when you look at these flowers online, as I'm sure some of you will do, they look like real flowers, but they're all made from paper. And it is so interesting to see that. And Quynh's not just a paper flower artist, but Quynh has also built this incredible business, built personal branding around her name, has transformed from being kind of in corporate to being in a very creative space, built educational content and courses, built a beautiful podcast that so many people listen to and gain inspiration from. And what am I missing? And also you're creating community. You wrote a book. Oh my gosh, you wrote a book. The craziest thing this year. Quynh wrote a book that has reached #1 on Amazon and all these platforms. And I was talking to Quynh before we started this podcast episode, and I said, sometimes there's like only a couple things for me to work with when I'm designing these episodes and thinking about questions to ask. And with Quynh, there's like, oh my gosh, there's so many things that you're doing, and it's all so beautiful and so good, and it all works together really well. And so I wanted to have you on this podcast to kind of talk through all of these things with you and show people that building a personal brand doesn't have to be boring. It can be really fun. It can be really creative, and you can build it around a very niche topic and build an entire beautiful, wonderful community out of it. So you kind of started your journey in a corporate environment, and you transformed into this very creative environment. Can you walk us through a little bit of your story from that point to now, and maybe some of the crossroads you came to along the way?
Yeah, definitely. I started doing paper flowers when I didn't know paper flower existed. I'm not a very artistic person, and it's so strange. Only in the past couple years have I been able to call myself an artist. It took a long time to kind of say, okay, I think I am an artist. I'm creating, and I've been doing this for over 10 years now. And it's just been the last year or two that I finally acknowledged to the world that I am an artist. And the road to get to this point has been a lot of ups and downs. And I think a big part of it is I have so many different interests, and that's why I do so much. I think when you look into my particular personal branding, I have Pink and Posey, which is my business name. And then from there, I also have the Posey Box, which used to be, well, it was the first subscription box that people could actually order to get paper flower tools and supplies and tutorial with videos sent to their home and create for like a whole month. And that was amazing. When I first did it, we sold 100 box within a couple of days. And it really like lit a light bulb and said, people want this. And it was, I mean, that was about 8 years ago when I started it. And it was just really amazing to know that there was an audience. And when you talk about niche, not a lot of people do paper flowers. It's a very, very niche thing. But once you really niche down on acknowledging what you love, and I fell head over and just fell in love with paper flowers. And when I first started, my client actually reached out to me to help her do her wedding. I'm a very logistic person. I love analytics. I love tech gadgets. And that's the one things that has led me down the path of doing videos, doing podcasts, knowing how to sound really well and present yourself. And I think those are the key parts of being an entrepreneur because you do have to wear so many hats. But really, what do you love and how do you find those love to really push your career forward in what you're doing? And yes, I do make paper flowers, and I make literally thousands and thousands of paper flowers every year, not only for corporate events, for weddings, for personal gifts. I also teach because a big part of me is pushing education because when you stay stagnant, you do not grow as a person, you don't grow as an artist, you don't grow as an entrepreneur because things are always changing all the time. And I always believe in educating yourself, putting yourself in groups of people that will push you forward and make you push harder. And I think I love doing my podcast. I know I'm jumping all over the place because there's so many examples I can pull from. But when I did my podcast, I started out with Priscilla, who was down in Los Angeles, and then I had Jessie Chu, who was over in Toronto, Canada. And these two amazing ladies were doing amazing, great things with what they were doing with paper flowers. And for me to be aligned with them, it helped me figure out where was I placed. And it's like, oh, they're doing this. Why aren't I'm doing it? Do I want to do that? And it made me question what I was doing, and it really propelled me forward to a different path than I would not have taken if I was just by myself, just working, focusing, and doing things. But when you expose yourself to all these different peoples and books and knowledge and skills, it propels you and drives you down another course that maybe you didn't think you were going to do. And I'm a big planner person. So in January, I'm always like, okay, what's happening this year? What's my biggest goal this year? But I let myself have room to deviate from it because maybe there's an opportunity I never thought about. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm wondering because you mentioned something about how you started when your friend asked you to help make some flowers for a wedding, right?
Yes.
Can you tell me, okay, so that happened, and then what happened next? How did this turn into a business from there?
So how it turned out to be that business is I made the paper flowers. I did it for a wedding. We had a great photographer, took great photos, and the photos kind of went through their friends and then through Instagram, of course, because I started posting it on it. And people are like, what is this? And they're like, I want that. And because most of the people that reach out to me knew who I was, but never knew that I did paper flowers, but they loved the results that I was presenting to the world. And so they asked me, like, I think I want that for my event or for my trade booth. And I was like, sure, let's make it happen. Because I'm a can do. If you can think it, I can probably figure out how to make it happen for you, which is really important in how I've gotten to where I am today. And my husband always says, he's the person that always says, why? And I'm like, why not? Let's make it happen. And so
Love that.
as that has progressed through, I'm always pushing the envelope and just trying like, okay, if I can't do this, how can I make this work? And then through all the different clients I've been able to get and people asking me for things, I evolved my business to be a teacher, to provide supplies because I found like a lot of people was like, where are you getting your supplies? And it was just kind of that point where I'm like, oh, I love packaging things. And so I was like, I'll just do a subscription box and we'll see what happens. And then I ended up, because there was so much on the back end that a lot of people don't know when you, and this was like a decade ago. And a decade ago, technology what is not where it is right now. The
Not at all.
cameras, phone, the mics. And so there was a huge learning curve. I never knew how to edit videos. I didn't really know how to film things, but I knew what I wanted to look like. And so I started watching a lot of YouTube, trying to find the right teachers on YouTube because I didn't really have the income to pay for different courses. But as an entrepreneur, you're always like, what free sources is out there that you can like assimilate and take down and take apart and figure out what will work for you. And so I learned how to video, I learned how to edit. And yes, it took me a long time to do it, but I've also realized that I knew people that could also. So there's a part of my business called the Posey Box, which I don't do much anymore because for a while when I got my book deal, I was trying to figure out I wanted to be the teacher. And with the Posey Box, it was more about pulling other people in. So I had Inga and also had Kate come in, and they were able to teach. And then what I did was I edited all the videos. I threw all the different graphics. I put together the descriptions with the supplies and everything because that takes a big chunk of time. And the bigger chunk was also about how do you teach someone and spend the right quality amount of time and effort to put those step-by-step tutorials because that's another part of your brain. And so with me being able to film, edit, record, and put the platform and roll it all together and send out supplies box, it took a big chunk of my time. So I made the decision to hire other teachers to teach, and then I would package it up and call it the Posey Box. And we did month after month, and it was a couple years of doing this. And it got to be at the point at the very end where I could do nothing else. It was like as soon as we were done wrapping up one thing, we're already thinking about the next one. And it was just, I felt like a hamster. And so I ended up, and it was right before COVID, I ended up shutting it down because I just felt overwhelmed with it. And I'm glad I did because supplies and demand got to be very, very hard to order all the supplies because COVID shut down on different things. So I ended up not doing the subscription box anymore, but I kept on with the online courses. And that's where I was able to really put my voice and my face onto the videos. And that really pushed me more to be a teacher. Yeah.
I think that that is really important. And I want to kind of highlight that you built these educational platforms because, and something I know about you that you haven't said yet is that you are very, one of your core values is that you don't want to gatekeep information from people about this beautiful art. Like you don't want it, you want more and more and more and more people to be able to make their own paper flowers and to get into the hobby and the artistry and the craft of creating paper flowers.
Yes. 100%.
And you built these educational platforms. You built these kind of, you started this community kind of started growing, right? How do you feel like creating the Posey Box and also, even shutting it down and then focusing on the educational platform side of it and the courses and that educational content? How do you think that that has impacted your personal brand or your brand's growth?
That is a really good question. I would say a big part of my business. So my business has Pink and Posey, which is where I create and educate through my own voice. And the Posey Box was more about multiple people focusing on paper flowers. And then my other arm is Paper Talk Podcast, which has Jesse Chu, who is the co-host right now, and also Sarah Kim of the Handmaid of Sarah Kim. And all three of us, we talk about the making of flowers through different mediums. It doesn't specifically have to be crepe paper. You can also grow flowers, and we'll have you on the podcast because most of our work is through live specimens of flowers. And to really deep dive and understand your what you're making, you need to know where it comes from. So we have all these flower farmers that come through, and we also have cake artists that makes flowers through sugar, through fondant, through gum paste, all the different mediums. We also have felt flowers people coming to talk, cardstock. It's not just that. It's anybody that loves flowers and understand where we're coming from, but also because we have all this conversation about making the flowers, you also have to understand that you need to, if you're going to be making them, you're probably going to be selling them. And so we wanted to educate our community on how to run their business. And we also bring in a lot of other paper flower artists to tell their stories because we find that it is so incredibly important because our audience are mainly moms. They're mainly people that are switching jobs because they found no satisfaction on their corporate job and they wanted to do something very creative. And we wanted to tell all these different background stories of people from all these different regions all around the world that you can make paper flowers from any type of background because Jesse Chu used to be a lawyer. I mean, I used to do corporate events. And so you don't have to be stuck in this little pigeonhole of doing things.
I feel like one of the things that you said that I don't want to miss is that you want to teach people not only about how to create these things, but also and not even just like not like you said, not even just paper flowers, but like the art of any creative business. And one of the ways you do that is by teaching people how to run the business behind these things, not just simply how to make something, but how to actually run the business. What do you think is the first step that you would advise someone to take when turning a creative outlet or a creative hobby or a creative like passion into a profitable business?
One of the first steps, I would say, do you have a market? Really understand the people. Who do you want to target? And that will change over time as you grow as an entrepreneur. But really, can you sustain something? And I wouldn't quit your full-time job until you pull in the type of income that you can, until you find that you are trying to do more what you love and less what you have to do on your daytime job. And maybe doing it part time is really important, but sometimes there are people out there that needs to just jump over the cliff and go heads over heel. This is what I'm going to be doing and make it work. Because sometimes when you're put in a corner and you're like, I need to pay my rent, you try even more hard to push your product and to reach out to people. And I would say network like crazy because you never know who the other person might know that will want your product.
That is such a good point. Networking is literally how you and I met. Like not necessarily networking, but like we connected over a lunch. Where were we that time? Were we in
We were in
Nashville?
Nashville. Yeah.
Yeah. We connected over a lunch at a mutual friends mastermind event, Mike Kim, and he brings so many wonderful people together. And you and I sat next to each other at lunch and we chatted, and now we've like done business together, worked together in many ways. We're going on each other's podcasts, and that is how all of this stuff happens. So don't be afraid to connect with people and like really talk to them and really, ask the deeper questions so you establish a relationship that turns into an even better relationship over time. How do you decide what kind of content to include in some of the things that you teach in your online educational content? Even when you were creating the boxes, like what do you decide, how do you decide what to put into something like that, and how do you know that it is valuable to your audience?
Well, there's many different ways. If I was doing the subscription box, I would actually, there was a time where when you are a wholesaler or you have to buy things wholesale, you have to reach a certain minimum. And sometimes they will have sale on particular items. And so I would keep a lookout like things that were good deals because you have to watch your bottom line. You can't make things too expensive, otherwise people won't buy it. But you have to also be able to maintain your costs and you have to maintain your profit margin. That was really, really critical of saying, how much money do I want to make? What kind of materials do I want to do in there? What can I provide that will be like the wow feature? And what can I add on there that will be a good supplement where people are like, oh, that's pretty good, but not be like, whoa, that's amazing. Because you already have that one piece that was like the main item that people like, oh yeah, this totally made the box. And so when I was purchasing and buying all these things, and you also have to think about shipping costs too, and shipping time, where if you order things and it might not come in 3 months, but you have to ship a box next month, you have to pre-plan things out quite a bit. And so thinking about seasonal, so the Posey box was all about making paper flowers. So we would look on seasonal. So if it was a spring flower, maybe a cherry blossom, what are the components to make the cherry blossom? And the cool thing about paper flowers is you can probably make it in any type of crepe paper. So one things I like to push the envelope is what if people already do crepe paper in German crepe paper, but maybe they haven't really showcased the Italian crepe paper because the material is a little bit different. The stretchability is a little bit, the coloring is a little bit different. And so you want to think about what coloring medium will be applied on top of that. And what have I not featured in the past? And will it complicate things in the future? So there's a lot of balance of what will fit for this month, what is seasonal, what will be most cost effective, and what did I buy that would work for that and I have on hand. And there's just so many logistics that a lot of people do not think about when you put together a subscription box, which was super fun, but also very time consuming because not only do you have to create an insert for inside to talk about the different pieces, but I also had to edit all the different videos, do all the promotion for promoting those particular boxes. And yes, we did have a captive audience, but it was also like, how can you expand the subscription box out? Because the real goal is to grow that subscription box to make it bigger and better. Because the you're thinking about volume, because the more volume you have, the more money you can play on putting what's inside the box. So that's one component. And I think I lost the question that you were asking because I got too deep into that.
No, that's okay. It was all really great information. And I think what I really hear is like, know what your audience wants, what they're asking for, be on top of trends and seasons and what is in style. And I think the last thing is like, pay attention to margins. Like that's the epitome of anything that you have to sell. You don't want your overhead cost or your total cost to exceed what your like exceed or eat
Yes.
into all of your margins. Like that's the most important thing. So I think those are really all very good points. Let's talk about your podcast a little bit because your podcast is very popular among many different creatives, like you said, not just paper flowers, but like tons of different creatives. And it is the Paper Talk podcast. And I would just love to know, how has podcasting really helped you contribute or build your personal brand? And how has it kind of helped bring in the broader community of creatives? Tell me a little bit about how you think that your podcast has actually helped you build your brand.
A selfish reason is I got to ask all these amazing people to come to the podcast and to have a private conversation with them. I think was like, oh, I would love to know this person a little bit more. And because I had this particular platform, I could invite them into my show and talk about all these different things that they've been working on, what they plan to do. And it was in a really great way because maybe I've been like following them on Instagram and you just read, you comment, but you never get to have that intimate conversation that you get to have on a podcast and share that intimate conversation with thousands of people, which is so much fun because you get people to comment on it and to say, oh my God, I learned so much about this. And the funny thing is, like when I meet people in real life and they revealed a lot of different things, I totally forgotten that I had shared that on the podcast. So they know so much about me and it's really fun because I don't mind that and I love building my community and I know that because I am so selfish on sharing what I know and sharing what's happening in my life that I feel like they're part of the family and not just the community. And knowing that all these people are following and listening and commenting and just pushing forward has been so wonderful. And it's really helped me in so many ways to be able to talk better too, because you're having all these different conversations. And I also edit the podcast too. And knowing how to push technology. And I think technology in the past couple years has changed so much. ChatGPT, AI, like all these different platforms. I use Descript. I also use Riverside. I really don't use Zoom anymore because right now I would say Descript and also Riverside is almost my little catch-all for what Zoom used to do. And they actually do a better job of recording audio. So if you're doing a podcast, instead of recording on Zoom, think about doing it on Riverside because we were doing an audio comparison between what sound better, Zoom or Riverside. And I would say Riverside won by far ahead. Descript brought out another company that does what Riverside and Zoom does, but I would say it's not as good. And so we're right now paying for the two different platforms because Descript actually does a lot better on editing. Because I know I used to do all my manual editing off of Audition through Adobe, which I still do at the very end where I'm adding my intro, my outro, and also the music and any other changes I need to do. But now with Descripts, they have such, I mean, Riverside now does the magic clip, which helps you edit your audio sound so you don't have to like manually add in the different noise gate and change all the different things. I won't go into all these technical jargon because I think a lot of our audience won't understand, but it's just a button now. Where it used to be before, I would have to spend at least 20 minutes going through each of the audio clips and doing all that stuff. So I would say my podcast has not only helped me reach to a lot of different people, but I also increased my technical skills because now I feel like I can really up my game on audio. And it's really pulled my love on mics, wireless mics, mics that you have the big cable that you have to hook in. And just it just makes me so happy to be able to like, oh, I can provide the service and talk knowledgeably to anyone that has any of these questions. But it has come across in podcasts before.
Yeah, I mean, and you're teaching people how to build this business behind their creative business and or behind their creative passion, and I think that that ties right into that. I do want you to brag about yourself just a little bit now because I feel like you have kind of told us the big picture, the zoomed out version of what you've done, but like you've designed flower concepts and huge displays for some pretty epic events, people, situations. Brag on yourself for just a little bit and tell us some of like your favorite jobs that you've gotten to do and tell us about, a little bit of behind the scenes on those jobs.
Okay, so I would say the most one that's on top of my head, of course, is my book. Because I had to design every single flowers, and there's over 25 flowers inside the book, plus five big projects at the very end to show you what you can do with the flowers. And that took about 6 months. The publisher let me only had 6 months to like write, and I also photographed all the images in the book, except for some of the projects where it was more, I want it to be more editorial look, whereas I feel like the step by step, I could easily do it inside my studio. I think that's been one of my biggest projects to date. But I have some other projects that next year, which I'm super excited about. And my husband always complains, like, you can throw away old things, which I have no problem with. And I'm constantly thinking, because I'm always having the next new project on my plate. And
Yeah,
right now, next year in 25, I'm already like booked out more than half the year. And my biggest project next year, which I'm so excited that I'm just about to start on it, is an exhibit in a museum in Cleveland, Ohio, which is like so mind blowing that my flowers are actually going to be in a museum.
that's so
And that
cool.
it just blows my mind for this particular opportunity. Some of the past one that really has blown me away is I've worked with this one client over in New York, David Mon. He has hired me for multiple jobs where I literally made thousands and thousands of flowers and foliages for him for his events.
Wow.
And I don't get to like design the concept, but I do get to design what kind of flowers, what size, what color, how they should look to put into his event. And I never know what these flowers are for because they don't really tell me. But when I do see the result, I'm really blown away what people can do with paper flowers. I'm just like, a lot of people, when they do paper flowers, they're only making maybe one, maybe a dozen, maybe 2 dozen, maybe a few dozen, but they never get the opportunity to create thousands of flowers. And when you have that many flowers, the possibilities and what you can do it just kind of blows your mind. And so one of the events that he did was for the Museum of Arkansas for the gala that Paul Allen actually underwrite to do this opening. And he had ordered hundreds and hundreds of these 3-foot white tulips. He also ordered hundreds of ranunculus, dahlias, peonies. The list goes on and on. I just
Three
made,
foot paper flowers. Okay.
yes. And
Yes.
it was the tulip head with the stem with the foliage. And he created this amazing, the museum itself I've never attended, but I've seen these photos. The ceilings are like super, super high. And you'll have to go into his count and you have to look a little bit, it's buried there, but ping me, I can send it and share it with you. But these tulips that he did, he created these arrangements that I've never seen anyone else have done. And it was just kind of like this collage of white tulips built on top of each other to look like a mini tower, but very artistically done. It's just kind of mind blowing. And I've always, when I first started working with him, I did ask him, like, how do you plan to use the paper flowers? Because I am nitpicky about how people
Yeah.
are handling my flowers and what will it look like because I'm not going to be there to like put it all together. And so he has a floral design background. He has a team of people, and I've been doing so many projects with him. I just trust him. And that was really amazing. And then he did this amazing indoor secret garden event. And he literally brought in trees and moss, and he took my paper creation and made into this magical fairy world, which I
Wow.
can't even describe. But you look at it, you're like, my jaw literally drops, like, oh my God, like I can't believe my flowers are in there because it just looks
Wow.
magical and so amazing. And I think when you do have a big budget, you could do a lot more, but it just pushes the boundaries. And I really, really love that a lot.
Okay. So now this makes me want to ask you, in order for people to find you and in order for you to be visible to people who want to hire you, you have to build your personal brand. You have to make sure that your website is available, that people can find you on social media. How important do you feel like social media has been for you? And what kinds of content or posts have been most effective for growing your social media and growing your visibility there?
I've been on Instagram. It's probably my biggest platform. I've dabbled in others. I'm getting ready to do more on like YouTube. I've tried TikTok. I've tried Threads. I've tried X. I've tried Twitter. There's so many different ways to put your name and your voice out into the world. And I would say before I get started with social media, if you don't have an email list yet, make a newsletter and get that email list going because those are your particular audience that has that, yes, I want to hear more from you. With all these
Amen.
different with all these social media, they get bombarded by so many different people that you don't really have a direct line. You can push and push and push, but sometimes you might not get anything. And one of the different ways is I really like to try different things. And I know Instagram changes their algorithm all the time. And yes, everyone complains about it. And I've complained about it because I feel like, I'm going great. I'm getting hundreds of views, hundreds of likes. And then one day I get 50 people. I'm like, what just happened? Did I get shadow banned? And then we find out shadow ban wasn't a real thing. But I'm like, I'm pretty sure it is. Because if I'm getting hundreds of like and suddenly I don't get that, something just happened and what's going on. And so there's a lot of like talking to each other and DMing. I think DMing on Instagram, having that intimate conversation, not just commenting on people posts, is important, but having that conversation where you're chatting back and forth to learn a little bit more, to engage a little bit more, to kind of like say, hey, I'm here. I'm listening. I want to know what's going more. I think one hidden thing that people don't use a lot is channels on Instagram because that's another targeted way for you to like tell your audience what's happening. Because sometimes people won't see all your stories. Sometimes people won't see all your posts. But I feel with channels, they will get a notification in their message link to say that you put a message out there. So if you haven't formed your channel yet, do it. And the cool thing about channels is, yes, you are the one controlling that particular piece, but you can actually put out polls. You can actually do mini contests. So what you do is you say, hey, tell me which peony you like or what peonies have you made in the past. Share it with the channel. And other people in the channel, they can't say anything, but they can post images and people can vote on which peony they like. So I ran like a little secret raffle where I asked like, what are you working on right now? And so people submitted on all the different things and then people started liking it. And I was like, oh my gosh. And then, so I just picked the person that had the most like, and I sent them a little gift. I sent them some scissors, some crepe papers. And that's just a great way to build your community to say, hey, I see you. I'm watching, I'm listening, and I really want to help. And been a great way to like figure out how I wrote my book. Like, what kind of flowers do you guys want? And what kind of workshops do you want me to do? And it's been really great to see like who is out there that's listening and want to attend my workshop because now I'm able to do, a book signing in Tokyo because people are like, hey, I'm over here, come visit me. And then I'm doing a workshop in New York and I'm located in Seattle, Washington. So it's on the other coast. Like who knew there were other people out there that wants to attend my workshop? And it's been really, really amazing. And another thing is like there's this tiny little coastal town north of Seattle called Whidbey Island. I had no idea I had such a huge fan base there. So I sold out my workshop with like 24 people within a couple of days because everyone wanted to
Wow.
take this workshop, which is really unheard of. So I think social media is so incredibly important for putting yourself out there because in the past, you could only sell to people that you would see on a regular basis and you had to like be networking. And that's why the salespeople are out there knocking on people's door and you don't get that nowadays because
Yeah.
now social media is your microphone to kind of talk about what you're doing, what's happening. And it's really important not only to share what you're working on, but a little bit about who you are. And it's just a great way to say, this is what I like, this is what I don't like, and to kind of like share a little bit about your personal because
Yeah.
being an entrepreneur, you're not all about business because you're still yourself.
Everything, even if it's business, it's still personal, especially when you're an entrepreneur. Like it's all integrated, it's all woven together. Speaking of social media, let's talk about media. You've had quite a few media experiences. Can you tell us about one of your favorites?
I think my favorite that just happened is I was in the article for in the magazine What Women Creates, which is huge international magazine
That's
that
amazing.
features all these amazing female artists. And for me to be on there when just a few years ago, a couple years ago, I finally declare myself that I am an artist, to be in this magazine to say that, yeah, you are legit, you are an artist, and people love what you're creating. It's just an honor to be asked to be on there.
That is so, so wonderful. And I'm so excited for you. And I hope people will go and check out your Instagram and get to know you there. And one thing about Quynh is she is very, very engaged on her social media. I've never seen somebody so engaged who is also got so many things going on. Let's talk about your book a little bit because you wrote a book and you have basically taken this book from idea and concept to reality and now have even been on an international tour for the book. You've made it number one bestseller. Tell me a little bit about any, first of all, any steps that you think someone creative looking to write and publish a book that reflects their brand should take, but also like what are you most proud of within this book?
I am so proud the fact that this book came together because I wrote it, I took the pictures, I conceptualized it, and the publisher did give me a really free range. And it was very funny because when I first submitted my first tutorial to them, it was probably it was around 3,500 words. And they literally told me I needed to keep it around 1,000 to maybe 1,500 words. And that was like cutting it in half. I'm like, oh my gosh, I had no idea that I couldn't put all these nuances, these thoughts, these tips, these notes. And I really had to be very, very concise. And it really, I feel like it made me a better teacher because when you have to be so concise and to really dial in your words, and a lot of the words are in your head, and you think everyone understands what you're talking about because you have all this knowledge to back it up. But when you put it out there to someone that doesn't know, it's really interesting. one of the first thing that came up was like the grains on the crepe paper because we have these horizontal grains, so to be able to stretch out the paper. And a lot of people didn't know which way to cut the crepe paper to get the maximum effect of the
Oh,
crepe paper. And
wow.
so there was a lot of like learning curves of little itty bitty words that are like, do this, make sure you do this. And it was just, and trying to be very concise. And I have to say, find a really, really good editor that will take
Mm.
a look at your what you're writing to be more concise in certain ways, but also to be able to capture what you're saying and be able to translate to the public that doesn't know the vocabulary that you know. I think that's really, really important.
A good editor can make a world of difference. Your book is beautiful. I bought a couple. I'm giving one away for Christmas. Not going to
Thank
say who
you.
to, just in case this episode comes out before then. But I would love to ask you this question that I ask almost every guest that comes on the podcast. And that is, if you could bust one myth or set the record straight for one thing in the creative industry, what would that be?
I would say in my paper flower industry, a lot of people think that if they make it, people will just come and buy it. And I think with
Mm,
nowadays technology, social media, you have to know how to package what you're doing. And really importantly, you have to know your audience because yes, some people might see it and might buy it, but if you want to have longevity, if you want to build that community that is like every time you put something out there, they'll buy it right away. You need to be vocalizing it and telling your story in such a way. Basically, I'm saying market yourself in such a way that the people will love you, understand what you're offering. And even if you switch or change or offer diverse products, they will still love what you're doing because your brand is on point. It's so important to know who you are, what you're offering, and to know your audience and prepare them for what things are coming down the road. I think that is really, really important.
very, very good advice. And it's so true about building your personal brand and building a community around what you stand for, right? And like your values and your message. Thank you so much for being on the Personal Branding Podcast, Quynh. I'm so happy that you were here and we just appreciate you so much.
Oh, thank you so much, Lauren, for having me here. I really enjoyed our conversation.
Thank you so much for joining me today on the Real Personal Branding Podcast. Quynh Nguyen's journey is a masterclass in turning creativity into an impactful community. If you loved this episode, I'd be so grateful if you'd share it with someone who could use this inspiration today. Sharing my podcast, sharing it into your stories, screenshotting it, sending it to a friend. That stuff is so meaningful to creators like me, and it's something that is absolutely free to do. You could also connect with Quynh or I on Instagram. She's at Pink and Posey. I'm at L Davis Creative, basically everywhere. And don't forget to subscribe wherever you're listening so you never miss conversations like this about building personal brands. You were born to create your personal brand. You already have a personal brand. I will talk to you next time. Please keep sharing your story. The world needs more good people like you doing so.